A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Stephen George and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Madenge. Now, the Charter Award of Uzima University at State House, Nairobi today was attended by President William Ruto, the new university leadership and the former Premier Raila Odinga, among other national leaders. President William Ruto, who hosted the leadership of the campus, defended his affordable housing agenda, hence answering the question that was asked by the former Premier Minister Raila Odinga on where did Kenya as a country miss its direction on development. Davis Karani reports.
Singapore, which 60 years ago was largely, if you look at the pictures, looked like Kibra. It was a slum. Today, 95% of their population are homeowners, and they are a first world country.
It was a defensive mechanism that was used by President William Ruto to defend his agenda over affordable housing, which according to him has led to the growth of countries like South Korea and Singapore that got independence later after Kenya, hence developing into a nation of the first world countries, which Odinga challenged the government to think outside the box.
The economy of our country and that of South Korea was almost equal in terms of GDP, in terms of per capita income, in terms of levels of literacy, in terms of levels of poverty. Kenya and South Korea were almost equal. 60 years later, there's such a huge gap between Kenya and South Korea.
According to Odinga, Kenya is in the potential of becoming the East Africa's best economic state due to availability of the resources and the brains produced by the country's universities, which are full of successive ideas.
What did the Koreans get right that Kenyans got wrong? If you can solve that equation, then you're on the way to finding a solution to Kenya's problems. I believe very strongly that it is possible for us to do so. And that's why I've never stopped being committed.
As Odinga challenges the country on development and growth, is Kenya capable of making it to the second world country?
The former Prime Minister is challenging us to think deeply. Korea made the decisions that changed their destiny. Singapore made the decisions that changed their destiny. If we are to change our destiny, we have to make decisions that will change the course and destiny of our nation.
Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
It was a tearful moment as hundreds of residents of Homa Bay County crowded along the road as they mourned the late Kasipul Member of Parliament, Charles Were. The body of the late Were was airlifted to Homa Bay County today and taken to his rural home in Kasipul, where his burial will take place tomorrow.
Right from Nairobi to Homa Bay, the late Kasipul MP Charles Sonwondo Were's body has been airlifted to his rural home in Kasipul, Homa Bay County. Tears flowed freely as screams and shouts rented the air as hundreds of Kasipul residents thronged the road to the airstrip, wailing and mourning their departed son. Homa Bay County Governor Gladys Wanga led the procession alongside other legislators. They urging the residents to remain calm and demanding justice to be done for the slain MP, whose final journey will be held tomorrow.
Mimi natoa salamu kutoka Pwani na nasema watu wa Homa Bay, watu wa Kasipul, poleni sana sana kumpoteza shujaa wetu, kijana wetu Ong'ondo Were, kijana shupavu, shujaa wa baba Raila Amolo Odinga, shujaa wa mama Ngangari, mwanamke bomba, mama Gladys Nyasuna Wanga.
Mjumbe wa Mumias pia Naika, tuko na wajumbe hapa chungu nzima. Asanteni sana Jokindu.
The late legislator was assassinated last week on Wednesday in Nairobi. By yesterday, police had arrested 9 suspects, including the late MP's driver and his 2 bodyguards in connection with the murder. Victor Jun, GBS News at 9.
Joey!
Swiftly, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi met with the U.S. Secretary of State, Senator Marco Rubio, in Washington, D.C. for talks aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two countries. They decided ways to boost trade and investment, support peace and security in Africa, and work together on ongoing regional conflicts.
Kenya and the United States have reaffirmed their strong bilateral ties during a high-level meeting in Washington, D.C., between Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and U.S. Secretary of State Senator Marco Rubio. The talks focused on enhancing regional and continental peace and security, accelerating trade and investment opportunities, and strengthening diplomatic collaboration. A key outcome of the meeting was the mutual agreement to expedite negotiations on the Kenya-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, which began during the first Trump administration. The Prime Cabinet Secretary also updated the U.S. on peace initiative led by the East Africa Community and Southern Africa Development Community, particularly efforts to resolve the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo through the leadership of 5 appointed heads of state. Senator Rubio reiterated the United States' commitment to supporting Kenya's leadership in addressing security challenges across Africa and advancing democratic governance. He also voiced strong support for Kenya's leadership of the multinational security support mission in Haiti. Senator Rubio announced plans to visit Kenya shortly to further strengthen strategic cooperations between the two nations.
Mr. Secretary, will the U.S. negotiate between India and Pakistan?
Secretary, can you tell us more about the rescue in Venezuela?
Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
In a disturbing case of domestic violence has emerged from Embu Town, where a businesswoman is crying out for justice after being brutally attacked by her estranged husband at her workplace. The incident, which occurred on the morning of Saturday on the 3rd of May, left the woman with severe injuries, including a broken arm, a bruised face and a cracked teeth. The attack, captured on CCTV, has become a key piece of evidence in a case that underscores ongoing concerns about intimate partner violence.
Her pursuit of justice has so far yielded little, despite what she claims are multiple incidents of assault, both at her home and workplace, as well as repeated death threats from her estranged husband. She alleges that the suspect often rushes to file reports with the police in what she describes as attempts to cover up his wrongdoing and frustrate any legal action against him. The businesswoman has accused local police of dragging their feet in arresting the man, who remains free despite allegedly inflicting serious injuries on her and subjecting her to what she describes as, quote-unquote, a living hell. She claims the suspect has been using his connections to avoid justice. Speaking to reporters from her M-Pesa and stationery shop on Wednesday, the woman expressed suspicion after she was summoned to the DCI offices to have her fingerprints taken, a procedure she was told was in preparation for her arraignment. Police maintain that both she and the man will face charges for engaging in a physical altercation.
Kuna mtu alikuja hapa ambaye nafahamu, lakini ni baba mtoto wangu na tuliachana mwaka uliopita. Akaingia, alikuwa kwa shughuli za simu akiongea na simu, na mimi nilikuwa busy naongea na customers. So kidogo kidogo nikapata amesukuma customer kando, akajaribu kulazimisha kuingia ndani, nikamzuia. Ndiposa akanizidi nguvu na kuingia ndani, akaanzia kuchokora vitu na kirusha huko chini. Kumuuliza, na kwa wakati huo kuna customer alinipigia simu ambaye alikuwa anataka kuhudumiwa kwa duka lingine. So huyo customer vile alinipigia simu, nikapata huyu bado anaendelea kuharibu documents za customer, kirusha chini. Nikamuuliza ni nini anatafuta, ndipo alishika mkono wangu na akaufinya, akasukuma kwa mbao ambayo iko hapo karibu na shelf yangu mahali nilikuwa nimewekelea pesa. Kwenda kumuuliza, nilipoona ananifinya, anaendelea kunifinya na kunitwist mkono, na mkono yangu ikaumia, na ndiko akaniweka ngumi ambayo iliniumiza macho, ikanivunja meno mbili na ikaniumiza mpaka masikio. Na wakati nilipiga nduru, kuna mtu alikuwa ameketi hapa nje ambaye ni mwenye alikuwa amenipea hii duka, anaitwa Shanice. aliona hivyo, nikapiga nduru. Alijaribu kutoroka akinivuruta nguo. So kutoka hapo mimi nilifanya bidii, nikaenda Embu Police Station, nikaenda nikaripoti yale yametendeka. Kidogo kidogo tu kufika hapo nikamwona na yeye ameletwa na rafiki yake anaitwa Washira, ambaye walikuja hapo kuniona, wakarudi geuza gari tena na kurudi.
Her fears materialized when she was arrested on Thursday afternoon, processed and detained at Embu Police Station, where she remains in custody ahead of her scheduled court appearance on Friday.
Hata siku tarehe 14 February amekuja kutuassault mpaka akachukua mtoto akamrusha chini na tukampeleka hospitali na nikamshtaki Mogoya Police Station. Na tena alikuwa amekuja tena siku nyingine akanipata nikiwa kwa gari na rafiki yangu akaniharas na akanisukuma akanirusha nje ya gari na akaenda pale police station kabla nifike, sababu nilikuwa nimeumia miguu, nikamkuta already ameandika cover up report. So anytime hata hiyo time nyingine alikuwa ametukuja kutuchomea kwa nyumba, alifika kabla tuite polisi watuokoe, alikuwa shafika Embu Police Station na akaandikisha cover up report. So amezoea every time akifanya makosa anaenda andikisha cover up report. By the time mimi nifike pale nakuta already aliandikisha.
Now, the woman says she is living in fear, claiming her estranged husband has threatened to kill her. This is Jeff Abuki, GBS TV News, Nairobi.
In a significant move to empower gig economy workers, Absa Bank Kenya has partnered with Bolt, Africa's leading ride-hailing platform, to provide crucial financial literacy training to 100 drivers in Nairobi today. This initiative, part of a broader program extending to cities like Mombasa, equips drivers with essential skills in budgeting, saving, and daily cash flow management, directly addressing the challenges of managing frequent mobile money and cash earnings by fostering better financial planning and decision-making. This collaboration underscores both Bolt's commitment to the long-term success of its driver partners and Absa's dedication to promoting financial independence and contributing to sustainable socio-economic growth within gig work ecosystem. Over 70% of Bolt workers receive their earnings daily through mobile money and cash, but many face challenges managing their day-to-day income effectively. Through this collaboration with Absa Bank Kenya, Bolt aims to close this gap by offering expert-led accessible training tailored to the realities of gig economy workers.
Or to spoil because of something small like 500,000. Is it? And I will do you a disservice if I don't mention what we call umbrella. Like you are
give us a briefly to just give you a brief information so that even as you step out,
for parents, 100,000 each. And the government preach that one to you, or you see me and my colleagues here, we can take you for.
You are a good friend.
Yeah.
Your institution, you get accident, that car is not paid.
We are very excited as Bolt to collaborate with Absa to offer our first ever financial literacy training to our driver partners. We as Bolt already offer an earning on our driver's pocket, but we know this is not enough. And beyond that, we are looking for many other ways to add value to our driver's partners. And this is one of the very many ways we are adding value to them. We know very well that with majority of our drivers having a daily cash flow, it is important for them to also have financial literacy on how to manage their finances. This is a commitment to our driver partners that beyond us putting money in their pocket, we are very committed to doing many more other initiatives, including this training with Absa today, to make sure that we are adding value to their lives, just beyond putting money on the driver's pocket.
It is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming on the social media platform. GBS TV Africa, the SMS line is 244. We'll be right back.
A student can transition from other curriculums, such as the Kenyan CBC curriculum, the Pearson Edexcel curriculum, and the IB curriculum, to the Cambridge curriculum.
Welcome to Fun Art class. Today we are going to make a sailboat. First, you fold a triangle, a half. Friends, today we made a sailboat.
My name is Ima Gatoru. I'm a model, a commercial model to be precise. And I've been asked this question, like, is model an art? And yes, modeling is an art. Because there are different products that you're supposed to promote or design, and you have to have that skill of you promoting that design or that product. So how you walk, how you talk, how you present yourself, like how you pose for a picture or pose for an item in your mepewa, or how you drive into a place in your mepewa. So you have to have that art or that skill for you to actually deliver what they want you to deliver. So yeah, modeling is an art.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to international news. India has carried out airstrikes on 9 targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir, claiming it was fighting back for last month's attack in Pahalgam that killed 26 tourists. In response, Pakistani shelling has hit villages near the border town of Panj in India-administered Kashmir, sending civilians to hospitals and forcing emergency services into action.
Civilians in the border areas of Indian-administered Kashmir are fleeing their homes as shelling intensifies along the line of control. The town of Poonch has been hit particularly hard, with local hospitals overwhelmed by wounded residents, many of them women and children. Authorities blame Pakistan's military for the recent artillery fire, which followed a string of Indian airstrikes earlier this week. Those airstrikes, the most extensive in years, targeted militant facilities across Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Indian officials say the raids were in direct retaliation for last month's deadly attack in Pahalgam, which killed 26 Indian and foreign tourists.
Over the last 3 decades, Pakistan has systematically built terror infrastructure. It is a complex web of recruitment and indoctrination centers.
To give a reply for the attack on its soil, India used its right to respond. Our action was done with due deliberations and precisions.
The Indian Prime Minister has cancelled a European diplomatic tour to focus on the unfolding crisis, as both nations, armed with nuclear weapons, accuse each other of aggression and harboring extremist groups. Fears are growing over wider conflict. Meanwhile, the border communities remain on edge, with civil defense teams conducting drills and emergency sirens now a regular feature of daily life. Teresa Tiengo, GBS News.
Crank your volume and listen to this. A new pope has been elected during the 2025 papal conclave after white smoke was seen rising from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, signaling that the 133 cardinal electors had reached the required 2/3 majority vote. The conclave began on the 7th of May 2025 following the death of the Pope Francis, and voting continued over 2 days with black smoke indicating no decision until the white smoke appeared on the 8th of May this year. The identity of the new pope had not been immediately announced at the time of the white smoke, but the official announcement is traditionally made from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica in Latin, followed by the new pope's first apostolic blessing to the faithful. Thousands of Palestinians have evacuated the New Shams refugee camp in the northwestern bank after receiving demolition orders from the Israeli military. This mass evacuation follows a series of Israeli military operations targeting several urban refugee camps, including New Shams, Takarim, and J9, which Israel says are aimed at dismantling militant infrastructure and improving military mobility in the area. Israeli authorities issued notices for the demolition evacuation of over 100 homes in New Shams and Takarim, prompting residents to quickly return to collect belongings before the destruction began. The United Nations and aid agencies report that these operations have resulted in the largest forced displacements of Palestinians in the West Bank since 1967, with around 40,000 people evacuated from the 3 camps since January 2025. The Israeli military has stated that troops will remain in the emptied camps for up to an year to prevent the return of residents and deter future military activity. Many displaced families are now living in temporary shelters, and access to the camps remains heavily restricted, leaving many uncertain about the fate of their homes and communities.
Even if they build castles for us, we will not accept. Let them demolish half of the house and give me the other half. I would rather live in a room than in a castle outside the refugee camp. This camp is our life.
We are taking a short break. Keep your feedback streaming on the social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 244. We'll be right back.
How to avoid food poisoning. Tips to prevent foodborne illness. You'll need sealable containers, a cutting board, antibacterial soap, lemon juice or vinegar. Step 1. Check the dates of the food products before buying and before cooking. Step 2. Store food in the recommended temperatures to keep them fresh. Step 3. Discard any food that smells or looks questionable. Step 4. Separate meat and vegetables at storage. Step 5. Use plastic chopping boards and not wooden ones. Bacteria can get trapped in wooden boards. Step 6. Wash your hands thoroughly with antibacterial soap before handling food or after handling meat. Step 7. Refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours of cooking.
And the question of the day is, can you survive without internet?
Ngumu, plus kwa chile hizo story tu zote zikupite ni ngori.
Niwaambie ukweli. Like hii ni kama kuambia mtu mwenye alikuwa amezoea kushindana nguo, mwambie toa nguo ushinde uchi. Hiyo huku atriki kwa sababu sasa like ilikuwa imekuingia kwa kichwa kabisa.
Mimi nimesomea day school na niocha. So kukuwa na simu hadi ni ile katururu, si smartphone, ni ile katururu.
Sasa unaweza kaa holi ya bila simu.
Kuspend hii most of the time kwa simu. Also you need to run skills. So nilikutana na later hapa nikakuwa player huko. And then I started learning skills. Digital skills.
Yes, hadi siku mbili haiwezi.
Kwa wiki naachilia hata kama ni siku mbili ama sometimes na extend to wiki nzima. Napata shiki simu yangu.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back. Denmark has again opened its doors to Burkina Faso by reopening its embassy yesterday. In August last year, Denmark closed the embassy in Burkina Faso after a failed coup attempt on President Ibrahim, who blamed the Western nations on the coup and seemed to lean towards the Eastern nations as he breaks away from the Western world influence in his country. Is President of Burkina Faso proving to the world that Africa can also assert authority in the global agenda? Our reporter Victor Odun has more.
Denmark has now changed its stance on Burkina Faso by reopening its embassy in Ouagadougou yesterday, after a failed coup attempt on Burkina President Captain Ibrahim Traoré in August last year. Denmark swiftly closed its doors on Burkina Faso. This was an attempt aimed at isolating the West African nation after President Traoré hewed blame on the Western nations and leaning towards the Eastern nations, including Russia and China. These upset the West, whom saw themselves as losing its traditional powerful influence to the East. But President Traoré has not even blinked, maintaining his stand on Burkina Faso's sovereignty without external manipulation like a puppet. The coup attempt had aimed to weaken him and destabilize Burkina Faso, but the opposite effect is true. It has emboldened and solidified him, and he has now gained support not only from the local citizens, but is also being admired worldwide by others, hence thrusting Burkina Faso into the international spotlight. Surprisingly, even countries like Germany that had condemned Traoré immediately after he took over power through a military coup, such countries that maintain that he returned power to the civilian rule, they now seem to embrace his administration. Is President Traoré forcing the Western world to go back to the drawing table and rethink about their diplomatic strategies with Africa? All said and done, former Burkina Faso's founding President Thomas Sankara's legacy seems to live on in President Ibrahim Traoré.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer signaled that a significant trade agreement with the United States is imminent during his speech at a London Defense Conference. Starmer stated that talks with the U.S. have been ongoing and promised more details later in the day, emphasizing he would always act in our national interest for workers, now businesses and families, to deliver security and renewal for our country. This comes as both countries are expected to announce a deal to lower tariffs on select goods, marking the first such agreement since President Trump imposed broad tariffs on trading partners last month. The anticipated deal is politically significant for both governments and is expected to address tariffs on UK steel, aluminium and cars, as well as potential changes to UK's digital services tax that affects US tech firms.
And we must use this moment to do the same, deepening our partnerships with allies, old and new, from across Europe to meet the defence challenges of our age, to the United States, an indispensable ally for our economic and national security. As you know, talks with the US have been ongoing, and you'll hear more from me about that later.
Well, you can SMS us through our social media platforms. And to our next story, citing increased uncertainty and rising inflation risk from President Trump's tariffs, the Federal Reserve maintained its benchmark interest rate at 4.25% to 4.5% for the third straight meeting. While acknowledging a solid economy and labor market, the Fed highlighted concerns about elevated inflation and the potential for tariffs to drive up prices and slow growth. The Fed Chair Powell specifically pointed to the risk of high inflation, slower economic growth, and increased employment. Here's more on the story.
Employment and higher inflation appear to have risen, and we believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. There's just so much that we don't know. I think and we're in a good position to wait and see, is the thing. We don't have to be in a hurry. The economy has been resilient and is doing fairly well. Our policy is well positioned. The costs of waiting to see further are fairly low, we think. So that's what we're doing. And, you know, we'll see the administration is entering into negotiations with many countries over tariffs. We'll know more with each week and month that goes by where tariffs are going to land, and we'll know what the effects will be when we start to see those things. So we think we'll be learning. I can't tell you how long it will take, But for now, it does seem like it's a fairly clear decision for us to wait and see and watch.
Greece and Egypt have reaffirmed their commitment to a £4 billion undersea electricity cable that will send solar and wind power from Egypt to Europe through Greece. Backed by the European Union, the 3,000 megawatt project is set to become the first direct clean energy link between North Africa and Europe, aiming to boost energy security and reduce reliance on fossil fuels.
Greece and Egypt have renewed their commitment to a £4 billion undersea electricity project that will transmit renewable energy from Egypt to Europe via Greece. Backed by the European Union, the 3,000 megawatt cable is expected to be completed within 5 years and will help Europeans access low-cost solar and wind energy.
We want to give this opportunity to Egyptians, especially young Egyptians, to come to our country, to work here. And this is the best response to those who claim that the policy of Greece and of Europe is limited solely to restricting illegal immigration. It should not be the traffickers, Mr. President, who decide who enters the European Union. It must be an organized decision taken sovereignly by the states of Europe in close cooperation and coordination with the friendly countries such as Egypt. Among the other deals include a 3,000 megawatts underwater cable, which will stretch nearly 1,000 kilometers across the Mediterranean, linking Egypt and Europe. I also stress the extreme importance that we attach to the electricity interconnecting project between Egypt and Greece. It is not just a bilateral project, but also a strategic step with the region and international dimensions, given that it is considered the first direct link for clean energy.
Both highlighted the project's strategic importance as the first direct clean energy linked between North Africa and Europe. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
Well, we have come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again next time. Same channel, we make your news our business. My name is Stephen George, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Paul Madenge. Good night.